Hey everyone. For this video, I wanted to go over one of my projects I've been working on a little bit this year and that I will hopefully continue to work on through next year, and that is the theme of womanhood, what it means to me, and specifically working with a red moon altar similar to a red tent. I know that's been very popular and gaining in strength right now. And I go back and forth between the terms red moon and moontide, but they mean basically the same thing to me, which is that period of time when a woman experiences her menstruation. So, why do I bring this up? Well, I was caught in my Book of Shadows flip through, not knowing how to vocalize this time of month, this time for a woman, and that to me is significant. That I, at this point in time, I'm 34 years old, for all I've done with witchcraft, I know so many feminists, I don't consider myself one, but with studying feminism and women in politics, in power, in all sorts of different aspects as part of my own studies. I studied political science, and I took a lot of feminine themed coursework when I did that. For all of that, I still have obvious trouble verbalizing this information and this topic. And that to me is a problem. That to me is something that I want to look at and work on and figure out why. So for this video, I am going to start out by showing you the red moon altar that I have set up. I haven't taken it down specifically so I can do this video and explain to you some of the things that I have on it. And then I will be back again to show you the journal work that I'm doing and talk to you a little bit about that. So here we go for the altar tour. All right, here we are at my red moon altar, and as you can see, it has a red scarf acting as altar cloth, and I tried to keep it very simple. So there's my finger. This stuff over here is actually not included. This is my ancestor stuff, which normally lives in that corner, so that's why it's there. And over on the side here I have more of my generic altar items. So what we're looking at is just the center portion here. And what I've included, I'll try pointing things out, 2 altar candles, which are basically for illumination, and my Freya goddess, who is standing in for Frigga at the moment, and my little artwork in back for the Tree of Life. Those are all kind of standard. And then the things that changed for this altar setup, I've included here my little cauldron, and up by the statue there, that is a piece of bloodstone. So I have that one there. And cauldron, a couple of candles, just because it seemed aesthetically pleasing to me to have them in those spaces. And I have red jasper, I believe, for root chakra and working with this particular time of month. And the other items I have here are my all-time favorite little cards, postcards. This came out of the Mother's Wisdom deck that I had mentioned when I reviewed my tarot decks. And this one I had pulled a while back, but I love the message for patience. Breathe and have patience. All things are born in their proper time. And I just love the arrangement of this. I love the shape. I love the mother and baby and just life within life. I really like that. And that's kind of the recurring theme for me for things dealing with menstruation, the cauldron, and mother and child. These all depict mother and child, kind of Madonna situations. Both of these two on the sides, I'll show you. These are, again, Salamoth Wolfing. I absolutely love this artist. These are postcards that I picked up, I don't even know, I don't remember where. They're the same artist, all these three are the same. And then this one, I believe, I picked up in Washington, D.C. at some point, either at the National Cathedral or at the Franciscan Monastery. I don't recall, but I love this picture. So you can see that the main theme for me is mother and child, the feminine in the aspect of mother. And I find this very interesting. I'm kind of working on why that is, why this is so important to me, because motherhood in general, although it's something that I always assumed would happen. I mean, I came from the idea of you grow up, you get a good job, you get married, you have babies, that's what you do. And even though I had that mindset, that's not what I believe any longer. And yet this theme of mother, and also extending to the eternal mother, the earth mother, the cosmic mother, in that way, it's very important to me, and I've been working on figuring out why that is. So that was just the tiny little tour of my red moon altar, and now I will get back to the other information. So, one second. Okay, so that was my simple little altar, and now I want to tell you a little bit about the journal work that I've been doing. Now I have a caveat that a lot of this work is very recent, within the last 2 months, maybe up to 3, but I actually began this back in, I think it was May of this year. And I'll tell you a little bit about the troubles I ran into with that and why I think I failed to continue with it. But I have been trying to keep track now. I have been keeping track of my own moon cycle for years now. Not detailed enough that I can use the information, for example, for birth control, which was the original goal. When I decided not to use birth control anymore, then I thought I needed some way to get into better tune with my body. However, it has not been necessary for me to be that strict about it, so I have gotten much better of an idea of my cycle. For one thing, I figured out I had a cycle. I just thought everything was random. For the longest time, I couldn't figure out a pattern, and I found that pattern by doing this, by keeping track. But there is still a lot of work that I need to do on myself. And what I decided I wanted to do to help me along that goal was to keep a journal. And I had a journal. It's basically, I don't know if it was a sketchbook moleskin, or it has some sort of thicker art paper in it that's meant for art. Like, I think it can take watercolor, sketching, etc. But I had it, and so I decided to use it for that purpose, and I collaged over the front with some cutouts, clippings that I had from a couple different magazines. I think mostly actually from a couple of calendars I had. I had an old Weemoon planner that had beautiful artwork and poetry that I enjoyed, and I also had an old lunarium planner that I had cut up, and I just had these things laying around. I said, well, I have to use them somehow or they're just going to collect dust. So I put them on here, some on the front, some on the back. I still have to, I don't know, Mod Podge over it or something just to keep it from getting ruined. But that is what I have. And then I began putting stuff inside. It's partly writing, partly collage, but I'll show you the first page here, and specifically this side. This was the first journal entry from the 19th of May, and this is effectively where this journal ended after that day. I didn't go back into it, I didn't use it, and I think the problem was I thought that I had to keep a journal in the traditional sense, write in it every day of my cycle and keep notes about everything going on, and that just did not work for me. And the reason is because, for one thing, I was not used to being in tune with my body and its rhythms, and I had no clue what I was trying to watch for, to feel, to understand. It was too big of a project to try and do that from the get-go. And the other thing was, I realized when I did start working in this, that this journal did not want to be a traditional journal. And I am very organized and ordinal in how I do things. I go from page 1 to page the last, whatever that is. I don't move around in journals and planners unless they're meant for that, if it's like something with dates in it that I can move forward. Other than that, it just is not part of my internal system to move around. And I realized that with this, I have to. I will. I'm going to. Once I gave up the idea of I have to write every day, and I have to write about what I'm feeling and what I'm doing and all of that, once I gave that thought up, I had so much fun with this. So let me show you a little bit of what I've done. So here again, this is one of the poems. Yeah, it's one of the poems that came out of the planner, and I stuck that on here because I liked it. And then these were actually given to me kind of a gift from a women's dance retreat that I went to. I had these in a little envelope just sitting there in my other journal forever, and I decided these would be perfect for this journal, so I taped them in there. For everything, by the way, I don't like using glue because it wrinkles the pages. I use score tape. This stuff is magical. I love it. It's like cement, and it keeps everything nice and straight and works beautifully. So, and then I decided, at first it bothered me that I had this blank space, I had this old thing for my information, and then it dawned on me that I can come back later and do something else with this. I can put pictures on it, I can paint it, I can color, I can do whatever, but right now I don't know what I want to do, so I'm just going to leave it alone. And that was a huge aha moment for me because I've never done that. I have to sit and do something completely all at once, or I can't do it. And so this has been a wonderful creative project for me. And then we go to that first page again, and I did include a photo of my red moon altar. So I put that in there with a little note that this past month, November, just because of working on this and having just ideas come to me and things that I want to work on, either in shadow work, things I want to flesh out as far as verbalizing and conceptualizing the things that I'm working with and what I'm feeling. This has been the first month in my life, in my memory, since I was 13, that I was actually happy and excited to get my period. And that's never happened in my life. And I was so happy about that. I thought, finally, at 34, I am figuring out how to enjoy the person that I am completely. That's not just intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, but that's this body that I have too. And that was a great, wonderful aha moment for me. All right, so then moving on, and you probably won't be able to see much of this, but I had this silhouette drawn here. It was actually from when I had this journal before. It was something else that I was going to put in here related to chakras. And it was already there, so I kept it, and I actually had a different idea of how I wanted to use it for this context. I also put in, again, another cutout, another clipping of a poem, And I have a quote here, and I love this quote because I have experienced this and I wanted to put it in here. "You're so beautiful," he says. "You're smart, you're amazing, you're a good woman." Isn't it sad that the women who hear these things on the regular are often the loneliest, constantly told how amazing they are, yet treated as if they're not good enough? I love that because it's true. It's anyway, so it's in there to remind me of that, and this page is actually, I have pencil written notes in here. So when something comes to me, I write it in where I want it, and then later on I'm going to flesh it out. So in this case, what I wanted to include with this poem and with this quote was my thoughts on basically love in all its aspects, specifically for this page, physical love between two people. In my case, that would be a man and woman, in my concept. And what that has meant for me and what kind of a part that has played on my psychology. And within this silhouette, then, I am going to include some of the keywords and highlights from a spell work that I was planning on just for fun for Valentine's Day, which is my own rendition of the Amas Veritas spell from Practical Magic. Because this is how I do stuff. I see things that could be fun or interesting, or you look at them and it's, oh well, that's not serious, but you can make it serious, or you can make it meaningful. So do I want to do a true love spell to call my love to me? No, that's again for me a little bit cheesy, but I want to open myself up to that kind of a love. I want to delve into what I feel about love, about relationship, why I feel that way, what I want and why. All of that is what I want to achieve by doing that spoof spell work. And part of that I'm going to include in here along with my personal thoughts. And then following that, I have Seasons of a Woman. And this is relating to information I found about menstrual charting, and I really enjoyed the connection that this particular author, and hang on one second, okay, let me grab it. It was someone referencing Jane Hardwick Collins, and she has a website, I'll link to it, but I really liked the connection of the seasons to the woman's menstrual cycle, and I wanted to include that in here. And again, there's a lot of white space in here. I have some pencil marks already, but this is where I envision doing some artwork around these items. And this is something I look forward to, or I'm looking forward to doing in future months. So this journal is going to be something that on the days of my period, I'm going to be delving into this, and I think I already am very excited about it. So far this past month has been great working with it. I have a lot of just pencil sketches, but I feel as though the whole point and purpose is to broaden it out, fill it in, put things down as I'm working through them, and it doesn't have to be completed all at once. Again, more pencil notes and a poem. And the other thing I'm doing with these cutouts is I'm using them as prompts. So instead of just a traditional journal where I'm writing each day on whatever happened that day, if I can't think of something to write about in that traditional sense, these poems are wonderful prompts. This one is talking about love. It's the author Khalil Gibran on love, and reading through this, thinking about it, it gets you started on reflection about, okay, this is what this person said about it, what do I feel about it, how did this poem make me feel? And that is the information that I'm including in this journal, not just the day-to-day. And then interspersed with all of that are my tracking charts. So this would be mainly temperature tracking. And, oh, the other one's not in here yet. Actually, I found another chart that I really like, which is a pie chart of the moon cycle. I like this because it includes the moon phases around it, and there are spaces to mark down how you feel physically, how you feel emotionally, and to include the zodiac, the astrological information for the moon if you want to. And I just took some notes here, but in actuality what I'm going to do is at the end of the month cut this out and place it in like this, but it will be in the center. And so I will have both kinds of charts running throughout the journal. I'm interspersing them in between additional items. This is a quasi-complete page. I have a cutout entitled My Daughter's Blessing Way of a first menarche ceremony that the woman did for her daughter and what that meant for her. And this was a reflection for me on what did I feel at that point in my life when I was 13. And I wrote that down here. I did decide to write across this way, and so I have my reflection on that time for me. And so I'm connecting the two that way. I don't know if I have anything else really written in here. I have a couple of other things pasted in. There is a segment for a story that I decided I wanted to write related to some of my feelings on relationship and my, how to phrase it, kind of me as a treasure a little bit. This aspect of myself, of womanhood, as being treasure and how I'm guarding it, how I come across as doing that. I'm going to explain that in the form of a story. And so I have a segment in here for that. And I also have a portion, it's just sketched out at the moment, related to sacred sexuality, basically how different cultures view union of male and female, and again what that means to me. I have a little zodiac cutout of Leo because I'm a Leo, and the title for this page is going to be The Strength of My Blood, meaning that I'm thinking the strength card in the tarot, and this is going to relate to my blood in the more, not literal, what's the opposite of literal? My words. In the opposite of literal sense of family, ancestry, things I've gained, good or bad, good, bad, indifferent, from my genetics, from the people who came before me. That's what I mean in this case by the strength of my blood, and that's what I'm going to be reflecting on in this segment. So there's not a whole lot written out just yet, but I really have enjoyed getting started on this project, and I so far foresee continuing to be excited about it now that I have figured out a journaling process that works for me for this project. So I'm going to end there because I think I've prattled on for a while now, but I wanted to get those thoughts out there. And in my video about upcoming projects for 2017, it's going to be, I'm going to talk about a book release and upcoming projects. I will mention why this has come up now and what it has to do with my upcoming projects. So for all of you out there who are interested in charting your own cycle, I hope this was somewhat helpful for you and somewhat interesting, and I will hopefully update in the future if it looks like people want updates. Till then, I will get some other information out for you. Thanks for joining me, and talk to you then. Bye.